Pretty much don't have to.
Call this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes.
I approve the minutes.
Wonderful. Anything on consent?
No.
Fabulous. We're gonna switch up the order today because it looks like this wildland presentation is gonna be lengthy. And Councilmember Sundberg has somewhere he has to go, so we're gonna go with item 4C first, ordinance amendment, Aurora Code, conditions of probation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is really just a cleanup to our code section 50-255. Right now, it reads that juvenile who is placed on probation would need to be fingerprinted. There's really no need or actual use of a juvenile being fingerprinted while they're on probation. So we're asking to remove that requirement. It would still be a requirement for anybody over the age of 18. And they would also need to comply with all the other conditions of that ordinance. So it's just a cleanup, removing the requirement that a juvenile under the age of 18 needs to be fingerprinted while they're on probation. Happy to answer any questions.
Juvenile.
No. No problem. No unintended consequences possibly?
No.
Haunt us later?
If it was more serious to where there would actually be a need to where it would need to be in some database and such, then that charge would be filed in juvenile district court anyway. It wouldn't necessarily be with municipal charge. So.
Okay, is Councilmember Hancock virtual?
She's not dead, but she's going to be.
Yeah, she has family. Don't worry about it. I had she has a family emergency. All right, well, I approve of moving this forward.
I do too.
All right, item 4B, resolution approving the IGA between Court Administration and Unemployment Insurance Division.
It's pretty straightforward. This is just an agreement so that we can access the database to check for income when we're setting up connections with defendants. So this just continues what we've already been doing.
Oh, to verify like if they're getting unemployment insurance?
Well, when we go into that database, we can see their earnings.
I approve of moving that forward.
Thank you.
So we have a motion, second.
We're great, Pete.
Sounds good.
And we are ready for this wildland.
So two things there. We're gonna probably start with the second part of that force, which is it's everybody's favorite time of the year. It's fireworks time. So we're gonna have AFR give you an update on how we're approaching fireworks. We'll move through that, and then we'll then end with the wildlands. So this is a little bit more the important one, and then wildlands.
Good morning. This presentation will be quick and efficient to inform this group on how Aurora Fire approaches the fireworks season. So we've spent a couple months leading up to this. Basically, it's a reaction to the city ordinance. So the city ordinance stipulates that during a certain time period, there are some permissible fireworks. So leading up to that, we have planning meetings with various stakeholders, as you see, and we make sure that both educationally and operationally, the fire department's prepared for this month. Part of the ordinance, written in the ordinance stipulation, is whether or not there's a fire ban. And that entails using metrics, environmental metrics, to help guide us with making that decision. So probably 2020, the fire department adopted this metric data-based decision-making model to help us with this ordinance. And what we use, if you move forward some slides to fire ban measures. And in a nutshell, what we use is fuel moisture content in vegetation, and then how much energy is released from that fuel. So two measures we use. If they're low, it's concerning because that means the percentage of moisture in that fuel is low. And then one measure, the energy release component, if it's high, it's concerning because that means the fuel is releasing more energy. We monitor that every week. There are other aspects that could go into initiating a fire ban, such as operational readiness or state orders or specific issues in the community. But for the fireworks ordinance, we use this environmental measure to just see what the vegetation fuel is like during this time. So as of yesterday, when we last checked it, and the ordinance runs from June 15th to July 5th, so we try and go as close to June 15th. And all the measurables are within the tolerable threshold to allow the sale and use of permissible fireworks. This gets in the weeds. We use University of Colorado scientists who have weather stations throughout the state that measure the fuel that we. There are various stages of a fire ban. Aurora is always in a stage 1, which basically just does not allow fireworks except for the period of the ordinance. And then as the stages go up, stage 2 and stage 3, more things are disallowed, such as public smoking or bonfires, even getting to the stage where things that could be allowed by permit aren't allowed. We also use the state's drought index, and there's an example a couple slides in about what a extreme drought may look like. We're not in that right now. It's just used as an example. This is all back up in for your information if you want to read more about in the weeds about the fire ban. And then as we look how we're going to operate during this period of the ordinance, we do a heavy community engagement, both socially and in person. These are examples of things we've sent out in the past. We use our own community educator to engage regularly at community events, town hall meetings being one of them. Also, we use national templates that talk about fireworks safety. And one of these pieces that we've developed, our community educator developed, is going to be a handout for the fireworks tents. So as we inspect fireworks tents starting tomorrow, we will leave them with material to hand out to customers that, 1, explain the ordinance, and 2, have safety tips for handling fireworks. We do see incidences involving fireworks that range from everything from improper disposal to improper use, both legal and illegal fireworks. Then if you can jump ahead to comparable municipalities, I've just put in here what our neighbors are doing. If you we use that also to guide us. So, and you'll see we fall kind of in the middle. Denver doesn't allow anything that can be ignited. And then there's other municipalities that allow more aggressive fireworks. We match up with Centennial as far as very similar ordinance. Is there any questions for me regarding the fireworks ordinance?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
To clarify, we don't even allow sparklers
We
That was
do.
our-
in Aurora? Oh, we do.
That was
As
our
long as it
ban.
doesn't leave the ground. So that's it. Sparklers, fountains.
Yeah, basically, we don't allow anything that leaves the ground.
Yeah.
Or bad.
Well, Arvada is anti-American then.
Yeah, you'll see our bad allows them. That's a different A.
Oh, Centennial, Centennial's legal.
Centennial's.
My other question is, do we have something in place, police, fire? I mean, it's nice, we say we have these ordinances, we have these rules, what does enforcement look like?
Yeah, so the enforcement aspect is from the fire department perspective, we have 3 fire investigators and 6 fire inspectors. We don't have anyone who is post certified or able to do police-like work. So
Your teams in fire though,
Yeah.
are they able to ticket? Are they able to issue citations?
yes, ma'am.
Oh,
So
okay.
they can issue citations. They don't have the capability to enforce.
Confiscate?
They confiscate, they can write a ticket. We base it mainly off of complaints that come in, whether access Aurora or non-emergent lines, and then we follow up. We actually spend, some of them have actually been a couple council requests we followed up on, but we spent June, July, and August doing more of a follow-up enforcement, and we have written some tickets from that.
Yeah.
To actively enforce on the 4th up and down the streets, the fire department doesn't have resources or capabilities for that.
This situation is like a dike with 100 holes in it and we can put our fingers in 2 of them.
Yeah, yes.
Because we get the complaints
Yes.
and,
Yeah.
I mean, they hammer us hard and we get the most hateful,
Yeah,
frustrated emails, phone calls, text messages from residents. It's hard to describe the angst these people have with their dogs suffering.
Yep, right. The trauma.
I can't say that I've ever contributed to this with my teenage son in the years past, but it's really out of control. If we admit it, right?
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
the 4th of July, someone put it well, it's one day a year where if the community decided, if 200,000 people in the community decided to break any ordinance on one day, it would be hard.
They actually do it for a week. I was gonna say.
Yeah.
It's a
week up to.
3 in the morning on
Yeah.
a Tuesday.
And they're unsafe situations. They're usually groups and blocks but we do follow up. If the evidence is there, we have written summons.
What about warning signage on these portable signs that we can place around town with the latest and newest fines? Serious fines?
Yeah,
Is that
we-
a deterrent?
Yep, we put digital street signs out with our APD partners. The messaging on that can be manipulated how we'd like it to be. It's always tricky to figure out the best way to message something in 31 characters or 17 or how much room you have. But our community strategy manager with the fire department works on the messaging for those signs.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's some sort of a community, are we doing a fireworks show here?
Sure.
Yeah,
It is difficult, you're right, because then I would tell you that your comments earlier are illustrative of that, right? Like sort of like coming down too hard, folks are like, what's the matter? Like, this is part of the holiday. On the other hand, you've got folks who are like, that take it too far, that go with, we've got folks that are going to Wyoming and getting military grade mortars, piecing beneath the ground, and they
Oh,
are,
yeah.
I don't know who would be doing that.
and they're dangerous, they really are,
I
so
know.
it's.
I think we had-
I'm kidding.
Didn't we have a fire last year? We actually did have a fire last year, didn't we?
Yes,
The big fire.
Yeah, and it was legal fireworks, permissible, I'll say, but thrown in the trash next to the house.
We've got-
So that's the education piece that.
We've got other examples of, Chief can talk a little bit about this. There was one where I think he's maybe even got pictures of where our guys are out. We've got multiple crews out working very hard to protect property and life, fighting an open space fire. And literally you're seeing fireworks go off in the neighborhood beyond them.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you can put me on patrol.
Come on.
I already saw them. I was driving over there and they were doing numbers.
You put me on patrol. These people are American type people. I'll talk. I'll talk to them. Let me talk to them. I'm not gonna have fires.
We recognize how difficult it is for council in terms of, you kind of get a lot of that. You know that staff is right there with you. We're out there trying very hard, but it is very difficult, as you heard, which
We're gonna
is.
provide them with your cell phone number.
Okay, so just.
Well, and don't waste your time chasing, the usual suspects. We get people that send the same emails to us over and over, which I have recently started responding to these people myself. Don't hang yourself up, wasting a whole bunch of time on that. Okay?
Luckily for you, I'm just the headliner. The main act is coming up.
All right.
Deputy Chief Weber.
Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, with it being fireworks season, it's also starts to be wildland season. You've probably seen some of this, but I'm just gonna do a quick overview of what we have in the department for wildland. And then we'll go into how we're covering the 4th of July. So if you go to the next slide, please. Next one, please. And my name's Rod Weber. I have Commander Hill up there, but he's actually at Twin Lakes at the Wildland Fire, looking at the properties that Aurora owns. So currently we have 2 stations that house wildland. It's Fire Station 8, which is across the street, and Fire Station 13 down south. We have Type 6, those are our small brush trucks. We have additional ones at Station 9 and 12. We also have them at Station 8 and 13. We also have 9, 12, and 15 also with those personnel, they receive additional training. They're not a part of the wildland team, but because they have a brush truck at 9s, they have a brush truck at 12s, and at 15, they have our new 3,000-gallon tender. So they receive additional training. If you want to go to the next one, next slide, please. So just different types of resources that we do have. Like I said, Station 13 is a wildland station. So we have a brush engine 13, brush truck 13. So the brush engine is new. We've only had it a couple of years. It's a great asset. Fire Station 8, like I said, has that Type 6 brush truck. And these are available for external deployments. So we do have.
I'm sorry, can you tell us what, obviously it's used for wildland firefighting, but what is a brush
A
truck?
brush truck, okay. Sorry about it. So that's a smaller unit, carries 250 gallons. It looks like an F4 250. That's the chassis that it sits on.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
Okay. So now the brush engine looks like a fire engine, but it's not as, it's a little bit taller. It's not as lengthy, and it carries 500 gallons of water, but it's also 4-wheel drive. So it can go into some areas like down in 13s, we have more dirt roads than we have up here. So it can get in there, and it has specifically wildland firefighting. They don't carry bigger hose like our engines carry 5-inch hose. That's our supply line for a house fire. They don't carry that. Their supply line is smaller because they have to, they siphon from creeks, from rivers, from lakes, from portable pumps. So that brush engine is at 13. That's a new asset that we just got a few years ago.
We may have also seen that during the snow.
Yes.
Ambulance is out.
Yeah.
That was the.
We'll drive that next.
4-wheel drive. There it is right there. So like I said, these are portable tanks that the tenders come and fill because they have 3,000 gallons of water. They fill that, they go back to an area where they can go back up, and then that brush engine fills themselves up and they can go in. Now, this is in Aurora. They were out on deployment.
But you'll see this last slide said, so this is one where we've deployed this externally when conditions here allow, and it's a well-liked asset by our friends at the, the state and federal.
The state
level.
and the federal government, yeah. Next slide, please. So here's another brush truck 13. This is what our brush trucks look like. So it looks like it's a Ford F-250, 350 chassis. But it does have a smaller tank. It carries some foam, and it's mainly wildland firefighting. So that again, Station 8, 9, and 12, and 13, of course. Next slide, please. So our team, we have a deployable team of 53 members. That means that they can deploy within the state, outside of the state. So I know last year we went to North Carolina, Alaska, and I want to say California. This year, we've only sent one. We just had our Commander John Hill went to New Mexico as a task force leader. So we just got back, and then now he's down.
Let them know about Twin Lakes. Go ahead.
Twin Lakes, yeah. So Twin Lakes is right next to Aurora's watershed. So that's the fire is right next to, so Twin Lakes is Aurora's watershed. So they're up there at the request of the state. So I've got Commander Hill and Captain Danik are there, 2 wildland. They're both task force leaders. So they're up there in the command post, meeting with the state, figuring out what the city of Aurora needs from the state. Good news is the fire's laying down. They hit it really hard with air. I don't know if you guys have been watching the news or not, but they've been hitting it hard with the airplanes and the helicopters. So there is retardant on the ground. Things are going well. So it's so well that he thinks they'll be home tomorrow. And the state, the federal government hasn't even taken it over yet. It's still a state fire. So that's good news.
When we're asked at the state level, or it says even the federal level, when we're asked to go help fight these other fires around the country, where does that funding come from?
Can I answer that
Yeah.
question? So there's two federal contracts that are really, really good for localities. That's the task force, so the Urban Search and Rescue Task Force contract, and then this wildland contract. They make us whole, plus they make us whole for any backfill. They pay for the equipment,
Okay.
daily rate for the equipment. They pay all the salaries and benefits of the members who are deployed, as well as reimbursing us for any overtime that we incur as a result of the deployment to
Okay.
backfill our fire stations. So it's actually a really good contract, where some of the state contracts, they
More of a
expect
mutual aid.
more of
Yeah,
a mutual
more
aid,
mutual.
first 24 hours is on the locality kind
Yeah,
of thing.
so
So
we're getting,
yes, yes, ma'am.
and I'm assuming, I don't know if you mentioned this, but you mentioned Alaska, so I'm assuming we're not taking our own assets.
No, we are.
out.
Sometimes we do.
Sometimes we do, yes.
Okay. All right,
Mhm.
okay.
To that, and one of the things we're looking at with the chief and, yeah, again, it brought it up to me about, we've got the one type 3 engine. Again, we always make sure we're looking at conditions of Aurora first before we commit any resources.
Exactly.
We've talked about exploring potentially getting another type 3 engine, because again, frankly, our folks like this work, right? It's, some of our folks that get red carded, they enjoy that work, and it's something that, we think it's a valuable service to the state and others, but certainly having another type 3 could help us, make sure that we're staying safe here, just a little less risk.
What's the cost of a type 3?
So 700-ish, 700,000.
700,000.
When they go out, I mean, it's one of the things that I like about these contracts is that we can send our members to gain that experience of some of these large wildland fires. They bring that experience back here to where we're at pretty high risk for the wildland urban interface fires,
Yeah.
like you saw at the Marshall Fire. They can go out and gain that experience with no cost to the city. And so that's the biggest thing about these federal contracts and our availability. You can also just send people, you can also just send hardware, and they reimburse you for that. Any fuel, any maintenance costs, any breakages, all of that is covered by the federal contract. So
Boat
it's-
sinks,
What's that?
boat
The
sinks,
boat sinks?
truck on it.
Right. That could-
So like what Mr. Batchel said, we also have red card members, meaning that they don't get deployed, but they've done all the wildland training, so they can work on the brush trucks, they can work on that brush engine, they can work at Station 8, 13. They're part of that. And then we do an annual refresher every year. And then, yeah, we do big wildland urban interface training because of all of our stuff down south. We have a big potential down there. Next slide, please. So like I said, federal deployments, Alaska, California, Nevada, I forgot about Nevada and Virginia. So we do go out. What the thing is though, is it's getting close to the 4th of July. So we will take those assets off the board, meaning the board is, we let Pueblo know we have this rig available and this rig available and people to staff it if you need us. But here, since I've been up here, we take them off the board about 2 weeks before the 4th of July because I want everybody here. So, and then the other thing that we've done in the past few years, red flag warning days, we upstaff the brush trucks. That means I put 2 people, extra staffing. So my minimum staffing is 96 people. So I upstaff those brush trucks, those 4 brush trucks with 8 people. So that day my minimum staffing is higher. And they are a patrol. They drive around the city, seeing if any, as a brush unit, making sure that if we do have a brush fire, they're immediately.
Just to clarify that, so when he was going back and saying we've got that type 3 engine and those other brush trucks in those stations, what would happen is if there was a wildland fire to come in, the folks that are normally on a ladder or on a regular engine would then shift over to the wildland to respond, because that's a better piece of equipment. So when we have days where we're worried about the conditions, we'll actually add additional staffing so that we have staffing on both the engine, the ladder, and our wildland vehicles.
Yeah. And we do that for the 4th of July. I'll go over all the 4th of July staffing. We upstaff a lot for the 4th of July. And around that, we'll also look at maybe upstaffing a few days before and a few days after. We'll have to see what the metrics are, how bad it is, even though it says, oh, we don't have a fire ban. Well, we don't have a fire ban, but now we have 3 days of 100-degree weather. Things have of course dried out, so we may have to upstaff a little earlier. Next slide, please. Yeah. So just our wildland urban interface. And you guys, you've seen this, it's been sent to you if you really want to get down and dirty and look at it. It's a great slide that the wildland members have done. So next slide, please. Again, here's all the talk about our 4th of July. I say we'll staff July 2nd through the 4th. It may start on the 3rd, it may start on the 4th, it may go past the 4th. It's just something that we'll have to look at. The brush engine, so all the, like I said, all the brush trucks will be upstaffed. The brush engine will be upstaffed. And then we also have an additional, it's a type 1, so it's a suppression engine. That's 4-wheel drive. We have that at the launch site. So we'll have that there with 4 people. We'll have a brush truck at the launch site, and I'll also have a battalion chief. So I don't know if you guys remember, I totally remember it, the incident we had at the launch site when I was a lieutenant when it happened. So we have it covered now, so we don't have that happening. Next slide, please. So here, like I'm talking about, we're gonna upstaff for everything. So me personally, I'll be in unified command with, is Terry? Yeah, no, he's not here. With PD. So in unified command over me, PD, pros, and dispatch. So we'll have, we'll run the all the stuff that's going on here at the AMC, because we have a lot of people come. It's a great place to hang out during the day and also to watch the fireworks. And then I'll have my commanders will be managing the incident, everything that's going on at the Great Lawn. And then also I'll have a paramedic resource and an ambulance here at the AMC. We've done this for the past, this will be my 6th year. So it's the same, we've done it the same way. And like I said, my a battalion chief, it's my special ops chief, will be at the launch site with the engine and the brush truck. So next slide, please. And then it's pretty much I'm done with the presentation. This is just some stuff that if you want to look up, our community wildland protection plan, what we've done, and then State Forest Service. And then we always, when we're out in the public, Firewise, Ready, Set, Go is very good information for people that live in that wildland urban interface area. So that's all my presentation. If you have any questions.
I just have one, and I don't know if it's considered a wildland fire. I'm not a fan of this fire that keeps happening, but over across the street from Grandview High School,
Okay.
there's that little shopping center that goes into the Saddle Rock neighborhood. And I think like twice now in the last 6 months, I've driven by there and they're out putting out this massive, because right where the Saddle Rock golf course is, there's that whole, it's pretty much just dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I was told, because one time I actually stopped and asked the firefighters if they would give me any information what was going on. And they said that they think that's the kids at Grandview, but now that whole area, I mean, it's just charred black and it's, do we have any answers to this? Like, are we finding out what kids are doing this? The shopping center, do they have cameras?
We have a, I'd have to look into that specifically, but
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know the area.
Yeah, I know the area.
I can't recall if we've found any cause, to your point. If it is juveniles, we have a process for juvenile fire setters, whether it's high schoolers doing it with fireworks or little kids. But there is a different process for that when we do find it's juveniles, but it can be very difficult from high school spilling out to who was.
Yeah, okay.
I just have a quick comment. It's okay. It's impressive to see the multi-jurisdictional cooperation if there's a wildfire that I've seen off of I-70 east of my ward. There was I think an abandoned structure burned.
Yeah.
And you had probably 10 or more agencies responding to that thing. And perhaps that was out of the Walden situation. But it's incredible cooperation.
I think that's one of the things that most departments will recognize, that when you have a major incident like that, we simply don't have the resources to manage it. The Colfax fire was an example of a structural response. Those incidents happen all over the country, and the mutual aid policies that are in place that are inked in long before that really help bolster the resources of that community. Typically, you're not going to have multiple large scale incidents going on at once. So we do a lot of resource sharing. Because if each independent jurisdiction tried to build up their resources to handle what could possibly happen, what was possible, not probable, it would be grossly inefficient. So those partnerships are established, and the state's really, I think Mike Morgan at the state is doing, I know he's got some bad press, but he's doing some things that are going to really bolster the state response to these wildland fires, particularly around the helicopters that the state's getting to do those airdrops. And I really like their approach to not put any financial barriers in place. And so the state resources are going to be free to the jurisdictions to use. It's a very expensive resource, but if you can stop that fire early on, it saves a ton of people's homes and all of the things that could burn if you don't engage it quickly. So I think the state is working on, and the region is working on improving those partnerships, interoperability, communications prior to the major incident, things like that. And I think it's really going in the right direction. My opinion.
And I think some of the new no trespassing signage that we'll be placing in some of these sensitive risk areas for fires could assist us with that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so then the safety action plan.
So we'll go through this quickly. Item 1 is our staffing. You see those numbers in there. I think the main one I want to share with you all is our next academy class is getting ready to start out there. And we think that number is going to be 44. So that should be starting Monday. We're excited about that. Our next class would then be in January. So we're again, I think making good progress. I think we're getting staff back up. So that's between that and then September of last year, and then our class in January of this year. We're over 100 folks through the academy in the last year.
But we're about a year and a half, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Out on the road.
Yes, ma'am. It still takes about a year to get them through the academy, get them through FTO, and really get them to where they're able to operate independently. It's a long tail to get there.
Yeah.
Keep adding to that.
Yeah, we've got some folks coming off of field training here at the end of the month from a lateral class that we had. So we have 6 of those. We're gonna have about 25 from the basic class that started in September. So we'll have those coming online, being able to be on the front lines and everything. And 4 months after that, we'll have the class that started in January that those folks will be coming out.
All right, second item is on our crime data. So you can kind of see the crime data there. So in general, we are seeing the last 4-week period, numbers are coming down on reported shootings, robberies, and motor vehicle thefts. Motor vehicle thefts continue to, year to date, are down. We've seen a little bit of an uptick over the last 4-week period. That is not, sadly, to be unexpected. Typically, when we go into the summer period, we see these things start to pick up. The Chief, Tina, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about just that summer period.
It becomes just really from Memorial Day weekend on, we see our volume drastically uptick. There's a lot more just because of the daylight hours. And so we're just seeing a lot more activity. And also we have fully staffed, 24 hours a day staffed our channel 3 for District 3 to try to even out that workload between all of our communication staff. I wanted to also speak just a bit to the 4th of July because there is such an influx, not only in police calls for service, but then when you add in the fireworks complaints. And so every year we do stand up our event line and we staff that separately from our communication center staffing. This year we're using our basic trainees. So we've pulled them out of basic training. They're going to staff the event line. That allows people another point of contact to express themselves. We're capturing it. But again, we're capturing it and like you were getting, that frustration and the anger. So that is a bit problematic for us. But as we continue to enhance our staffing, we're going to continue also to just evaluate how we're providing service to fire, to APD, to see how better we can spread out workload to make sure that we're giving everyone the best one-on-one service as well. So, but summers are impeccably busy for us.
Talk a little bit about any other trends you're seeing in terms of the crime metrics.
So, essentially, obviously, our homicides are up but they're gradually going down in terms of the percentage, so that's a good thing. And of course, our non-fatal shootings, keep going down as well, but it is a summer, so it's gonna, we're expecting more, obviously. But our gun violence suppression team, that is one unit. They investigate the non-fatal shootings that we are gonna keep staffed, even with our staffing shortages. We're gonna keep that unit fully staffed because of the seriousness of the crimes that they're investigating. And also we're working on our gang robbery and investigative team also to get them fully staffed and have that being some of the units, our specialized units that we're gonna keep fully staffed just because of the seriousness of the crimes that they're investigating.
Obviously, we have the juvenile numbers there, so that'll roll us into the next item, which is our youth violence prevention. So I see Captain Hannafin and there you are, sorry. And then our partners in housing and community services, so providing updates you all have.
Good morning, everyone. For our NOFO agencies, they have served 6,163 youth year to date. We have allocated $479,768 to those agencies year to date. For Aurora State, we have completed 78 customs. And then as far as any updates or community activities, we'll be attending some of the park nights and movie lights events, and then also some of the pro youth events at some of our recreation centers. We did have our governance board meeting with Aurora Save this 2 weeks ago, and then we also will be in the final stages of hiring for our YVP administrator position. So hopefully for the next meeting, that person will be in attendance. And then the last thing I have is that we met and gave a brief overview of YVP to the Global Youth Academy attendees. Asked them any questions and, just got to know them. So you have some very long success stories. I'll let you read that on your own. But that's it for.
I have a question. The 6,000, it's off the screen now, but the 6,143 right there served. I mean, is there data on that? That seems pretty arbitrary. How are we every single, like I work personally with a road called Straight. How are we?
So my understanding, I'll let these guys talk. Those are the numbers that each of the recipients report to us. So they are self-reported. We've had questions from some of your colleagues on council as to, are we verifying those or how are we handling that? My understanding is we are not out independently verifying that. Those are self-reported by the agencies, but I'll let, if there's any more to add to that.
Yeah, that's correct. They report to our data analysts the numbers and what they've been doing as well as the success stories. So he kind of works with them on a one-on-one basis to collect that data. And then we do have a dashboard as well that kind of shows the players and everything.
And the money that I think it's 500,000 that we allocated per year, but I think that's going down, right? Because the marijuana, is that a part of the marijuana revenue?
I'll go back and look at that one. I think it's one of those where we're looking at, I know we've had questions in general about just the NOFO process. So that in general, something we're looking at across the board as to that. I think that's something that we've heard from council that there's concerns on the agencies that are receiving it, or is that effective? And so as we bring the new administrator on, we're gonna be back to council to talk about some options around how to keep doing that moving forward. I think we'll probably recommend changing how we're doing it. We've heard that from council, so we kind of want to have that conversation with council about what do we think that what a different and more successful and more effective mechanism might look like.
And when's the next disbursement for the next round of 500,000?
So it actually ends at the end of this month. So June 30th will be the end of
The last contract.
the last contracts. And
So
then
in July, we will decide.
Correct.
Yeah, I really will be combing through that. I am tired of funding all of these organizations when in my mind, there's like 5 that are actually doing anything in this city. good work, not just anything. There's 5 that are doing good work in this city. So I'd like to really focus on just those organizations. Half the organizations we give money to, I've never even heard of them. I've never heard of them. They don't show up to anything. They don't get involved. You have a Christmas party and invite all of these organizations. 5 of them show up. I mean, I'm just putting it out there now that I'm really gonna be combing through the organizations that we are helping.
Yeah, we've heard that. You're not alone in that. We've heard.
Yeah,
your colleague on that.
ridiculous.
So that's why we're relooking that process.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's the youth violence piece. Moving on to area 4 is our mental health programs. And so between our updates on mental health programs.
I'll get the update.
Okay, go ahead, please, thanks.
Good morning, everyone. So for the month of May, we had 139 calls for service with our CRT team. We had 75 were resolved on scene, 17 were M1s. There were 2 that went to jail, 5 that went to the walk-in crisis center, 39 for follow-ups, 8 were targeted violence referrals, and none were jail diversions, but there were 5 emergency room jail diversions. And secondarily, if you can scroll down, our AMRT team, which is 2 currently, are kicking butt. They had 98 calls for service. 118 were resolved on scene. There were 4 M1s that were issued. 1 person went to jail. There were 4 that were referred to the walk-in crisis center. 12 were a courtesy transport to other places within the city. There were 2 jail diversions and 11 emergency room diversions.
Questions on CRT or AMRT?
It's something we both very much supported.
So yeah, I think we continue to remain fully staffed on the clinician side. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're getting another AMRT on board, but that'll be another couple weeks yet before she's fully on board.
Appreciate it.
Because I think that, yeah, we're showing 2 teams, and I think we're trying to stand up for 3rd team, so we do have funding for a 3rd team on the AMRT side.
Okay.
All right, final is on our homeless camp abatements. So I see Emma there, so Emma, take it away.
Good morning, all. So as you can see, it was a pretty typical month for us in May. We usually get somewhere around that notifications, and as always, many of those are duplicates of the same camps that people are reporting. So 63 abatements is pretty normal as well. And then those 4 CDOT, that's pretty much what we've been seeing for a while now around there. What I really want to highlight though is that we got 28 people into pallet shelters last month. And of those, I think we have a few slated they're on some housing lists right now. So we'll be looking at getting them into housing within the next month or so. So that's amazing. And some of those are couples in those. So that's going to be 2 to 6 people moving into housing off the streets that we got in there through that camping ordinance and through those abatements. One other thing that I just learned in the last 2 days, so it wasn't up here, we've reduced our veteran homelessness by 32% since the beginning of the year. That's a really significant number. And you'll see across the Metro Denver region, everyone is really focused on trying to really reduce the veteran homelessness population right now, and that's actually a national thing as well. But we're seeing huge successes right now in Aurora specifically, and we've been working really hard. We do currently we're doing bi-weekly case conferencing for veterans experiencing homelessness, and we're going to be switching that to weekly shortly. And that was at the request of the VA. So we've been working really closely with them on all of this.
So the good news for us is that there are resources specifically set aside for veterans experiencing homelessness. So that's an area where, again, getting them into the pallets is really helpful because then we can get them engaged with services. And that's one of the first questions they asked. Have they ever served? We can find out that they have a veteran status and they're eligible. That really opens up some things, which is why it's important to get folks into pallets, get them into other places where we can get them engaged in services, because that's going to get them off the streets.
Well, just like the call we had yesterday, Emma, with that nonprofit organization, And for me to sign off on any kind of safe outdoor camping site is also unheard of. I'm getting soft. I don't know what's going on with me right now, but don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. But because we talked about getting them into pallets, but I have personally gone out. I mean, I go out and seek out homeless people and talk to them. And I especially try to look for the veterans. Some of them aren't telling the truth, but I can sniff that out pretty quickly. And some of them, like I said yesterday, and as you said, you've heard, some of them just refuse to be confined by four walls, and that is their words. So I could see that some of them aren't gonna go into the pallets. So I hope we can look for some sort of opportunity for this safe outdoor camping site for the veterans.
Absolutely. And what we see a lot of is folks are saying no to shelter or those four walls because they've been burned before, that they've had a shelter experience that was really bad or something else happened. So it's really just us continuing to build trust and say, hey, this is going to be different and here's why.
Yeah.
And then showing them the successes we have had with the pallet. So that's the big thing that our outreach team does. They're out there every day talking to folks, trying to get them connected. Even if they don't want to go into shelter right now, trying to get them connected to housing in another way, even if they just have to find them on the streets every other day to keep them moving on those processes. So that's our outreach team does a lot of really good work, just getting those folks connected, and they've housed a lot of people this year as well.
And I don't just care about housing these people. When we're transitioning from pallets to housing, are we helping these people get jobs?
If they're able to, absolutely. We're getting them connected to whatever services they need as well. So some folks are on disability and aren't able to work. And that's going to be a small portion of the folks we're seeing. Well, I shouldn't say a small portion. Actually, it was 30% of the people who are experiencing street homelessness are also living with at least one disability, if not more. So they have a lot of barriers in their way to maybe get employment or something like that. But if folks can gain employment, we're absolutely going to help them get that and help them work through that, or get them connected to an organization like Ready to Work, who's going to help them get through that as well. Really, we want to get them connected to the experts who can spend that time with them and get them connected to those services they need.
Question.
Oh, go ahead.
Councilmember Hancock, sorry I'm not on camera. I've got some stuff. But I wanted to ask, you said 33%, Emma. How does that translate into how many people is 33%?
It's 32%, and we're down to 40 people right now that we know of, and we keep a very comprehensive list of veterans experiencing homelessness in Aurora. And that's what we do that weekly case conferencing with. So we're at 40% now. So I'm not a math person. Someone with math skills can tell you what that would be. 32% up from that 40 number. Sorry, I'm not that math person.
But we'll follow up. We'll see if we can get
Yeah.
you those numbers. And if we're down to 40 and it's 30.
I'd be interested in knowing, because I know, Judge Day, that's a big piece of your heart to see the veterans move forward. And I just, numbers, the percentages, that's great. But I want to know how many actual people we're actually helping here. And, yesterday I was driving over to the Emeralds event that was at the AMC last night. And right across from the Sam's Club, there is a sizable homeless camp behind the, I guess it's a box, a utility box right there, right by the La Quinta. It's a pretty big camp, so you might want to have somebody take a look at that.
Okay, noted. I'll have my team check that out if it's not already posted. And the number, when I said it's more than that 32%, it's been 32% down, but we're housing people almost weekly at this point through that process. So it's a lot more than whatever I said, like 13. It'd be 13 people if you did the math there, but it's more than that. Because people are frequently moving into Aurora. Part of the issue is we have the VA hospital in Aurora, so that's a draw for people to come and receive services. So we see our numbers fluctuate a lot due to that reason. So we're working with folks a lot through that and with the VA on that as well.
And with the Oh, what was I just gonna ask? Oh, with the homeless navigation campus opening, are we still thinking that the congregate shelter portion will be active November, December of this year?
So what we're looking at right now, based on trying to get all the renovations done as quickly as possible, is we'll have the winter activation ready. It won't be probably day-to-day shelter though. We're still working through that. Things can change.
At a minimum, we're starting with trying to make sure we at least have cold weather activation available at the navigation campus. We'll need to get a few more weeks or another month or two into the renovations. We're also bringing our operations partner online. So some of this is going to be on our operations partner. Are they able to staff up and man this on a more ongoing basis? But from a facility standpoint, at a minimum, we're trying to have cold weather sheltering available this winter.
By November, December.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
So at what point will we see the shift? I think it was always, well, it had been 2 million. I think with the cuts with the marijuana revenue, it went down to 1.6 million or something this year. Is that when we can expect to see the shift go from the current people we're paying out for cold weather activation to our operation partner for the campus?
That's, go ahead.
We have we still are in the middle of our fiscal year for those grants, so those don't end till the end of the year.
Yeah.
December. So we're gonna be doing our NOFO for that process again soon, and we'll have that much more narrow and only be giving out a little bit of that to agencies, and the rest of it, the vast majority will be going to our operator for those funds. So yes, that should be around that time. We'll probably be getting them some funding from other sources earlier because they'll be running that cold weather.
Do we have any idea what marijuana revenue looks like thus far, this year? Are we still in a decline?
I don't know. Okay. I'll find out for you. I'll add that. You've got some questions into me. I'll add that.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to see added to this, it's really an epidemic in our city, is theft from grocery stores. We had a grocery store close at Havana and Colfax. The King Supers at Havana and Mississippi is losing $1.6 million a year. We have a total of 3 grocery stores right now that it makes sense to close their doors. And so I'm meeting with the chief tomorrow to explore some ideas, and some other conversations are happening, but this is bad. And too late, we look at the problem, go, what could have happened there? But there's a lot of factors at that intersection that I spoke of Havana. But I'd like to focus on this if we can. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I mean, if they're losing money, they're gonna leave. So there's no conversation we're gonna have that's gonna fix that. I would leave too.
In fact, I'd like to see, remember when a John was soliciting a prostitute back in the day, they'd have their face shamefully put in the newspaper, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so one small chain in California is your new mugshot on Instagram for these problem shoplifters.
Oh,
They're putting their face. And do you know this person? And it's dramatically dropped. It's just one technique. But there are some things that we can do. Back in the day, we used to enforce the law and arrest people, but we don't do that anymore. Might be the state level, might be other factors, but it's a problem, and we can't be too little too late after we see a word at a grocery store.
Yeah.
Anything more on homeless?
No.
Okay, that's it for the plan. Back over to you, Matt.
Okay, so that wraps it up unless anybody has anything for miscellaneous matters for consideration. Does anybody have anything they would like to say? Okay, well, me neither. Imagine. The next meeting will be July 11, right here at 9 a.m. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.